Can't tell if anyone's watching yet because my laptop won't connect to my Wi-Fi for stupid Windows reasons. Oh my god, this is a disaster. Oh, here we go. All right. All right, I finally have the chat up. Have I got a chicken dinner yet? Yes, of course. I'll link you a chicken dinner right now. This is the most recent one. The sound is weird. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, it's clipping. Let's just turn it down a little, like that. It's probably not clipping anymore, right? Streaming at a weird resolution. Yeah, this is a 16 by 10 monitor right now that I'm using. So, I'm set up to stream 16 by 9, which is why it looks weird. It's fine. It is a temporary monitor. I'm getting a new monitor in a couple days. As you can see, I'm moving into somewhere. There's boxes all over the place. It's all a temporary setup. So it's going to be a little bit strange today. Has my daily routine changed after I got success in the game world? I don't really have a daily routine. I kind of do whatever I feel like, which often involves going into the office now that there are people there. So that part is more about, hey, there's a software company now, but that's not really about success. That's about, hey, there's a software company now. So, all right, I'm going to close this window right here because a lot of noise is coming in through this window. I guess 9 a.m. is a really noisy time. 8 a.m. 8 a.m.? Wait, is it really 8? Or did we daylight savings time? It's really 8. All right, we're streaming at 8 a.m. Yeah, compilation speed is worth a lot. I think programming in C is actually a lot better than people realize. So one thing that Sean Barrett pointed out is that once you get set up in C, like if you've got a set of code that provides functions that you want to have all the time and that you want to use, that's actually a lot of the benefit that languages like Python or JavaScript give you. And so, like C is really not as bad, or not bad, but C is really not as unproductive as people think it is. Simply, you just need to get some code together that provides the basics that you frequently want to do. Now that said, of course, I think we can do better, which is why I'm working on a new programming language. But yeah, straight C is really not bad these days. Do I think I'm on schedule for closed release? I don't know. We're still early enough that I can't tell. You're getting strange audio stutter. Is everyone getting strange audio stutter? I don't have the audio on. Let me try listening on my laptop here through headphones. See what it sounds like. It sounds okay to me. Yeah, so I'm just on this webcam right now. Usually I have a higher quality mic. We will probably set that up in the future, but today we're just on the webcam. And this room still doesn't have as much stuff in it as a lot of rooms might have, so there might be some reverberation due to the room. Have I tried TypeScript? No, because I have no interest in compiling to JavaScript. I just don't want that now. Okay, let's do some streaming of programming. So during the last stream, I was working on making variable arguments be more flexible so that you could have arguments after them. And I finished that during the workday yesterday. So if I go into here, we have our concatenate now. And this is the one that I was working on during the previous stream. And you'll note that even though this is varargs, we can have arguments after it. And this is working. I've checked in that version of the compiler, and now everybody is using it. So now I want to go through and reap some cleanups that has enabled. However, I left my notes at the office about what the varargs related code cleanups were. So I'm going to do those back there during the workday. But before the workday, I'm going to go do a few things. One of the places where we were using this was in the launcher box. But apparently last time we worked on the launcher box, I didn't check in the final code, so it doesn't totally compile right now. And rather than try and figure that out, I'm going to ignore the launcher box for now. That's very sad. I might be able to remote desktop into my work machine, but that would eat enough time that I'm not going to do it. So instead, we can clean up some other places. So I remember, for example, that in file utilities, we were using a concatenate with, right? We have this concatenate with spaces and concatenate with spaces and quotes. And the reason that we were using these was because we couldn't use the general concatenate routine, right? And we weren't able to say, hey, put spaces between and so forth. So yeah, so we're going to get rid of these. So first, we're getting rid of concatenate with spaces. And it's going to be, oh, you know, if we spread this, I wonder if we can just do that without naming the arguments. I think we can. I think we can. This is exciting because I just haven't played with this. Are we actually compiling this file? Let me put a syntax error in there. The other thing going on is something has gotten really slow. I installed, oh, there we go. I installed Visual Studio 2017, and when we run the linker or the resource compiler or something, it's really slow now. So also the SSD on this computer is getting pretty slow. So I want to do another computer setup, maybe tomorrow morning, where I set up one of the fresh new machines that we got here at home. So in the meantime, we're going to have that annoying slowdown every time we compile, and that might drive me crazy. Okay, but we are compiling this. This should not be with spaces anymore. This should be just this. So, oh god, that's a different bug. We can talk about later. So that appeared to work. Really, I want to call os run command to verify that. Close this Steam box. Close close this settings, close this, close. I don't care about any of this. Thanks for telling me I plugged the device into the audio jack yesterday. Someone says that would be very ambiguous with any varargs, though. What would be very ambiguous? You mean not naming the thing? No, because if you spread an argument, you can't keep going like this. That's not how this works. So the reason I can do this without naming these is just that this takes the whole vararg slot. So all the variable arguments are this thing. Okay. What's a good command that we can run? There's stuff in Sokoban that, let's just make a new test file. Let's go to compiler bugs, bug 78 or something. I don't know why I picked that one, but and then I'll say main is this, and we'll run that anyway at compiler time. And main is going to say os run command, and then what's a good command to run? Like, we'll say I'm not used to this keyboard that I'm using. So I don't know, what's a good command on Windows that we can run that'll produce output that we know that it's working? Have I planned to add support for a function that takes two varargs list of parameters if they are different type? Maybe. That might happen later. We just don't have good use cases of when we would like to do that. But they don't even have to be of different type. They could be of the same type. And you could switch to the second set of parameters by using a name. So that would work. Command/C echo whatever. Does that work? Command/C echo hello sailor. Okay. Oh wait, I could just do this. Okay. I was trying command/C echo hello sailor. Okay. Oh, I gotta use file utilities. Result is false. Didn't like that. Where does command live? Well, like maybe I have to give the path to command. Wait, what? Did I edit the Linux one? Yes. I edited the Linux one. Because, like, remember I changed the Windows one to use the native Windows thing anyway. So, like, I can't even, yeah. I can't test this right now. I don't have the Windows subsystem for Linux or whatever it is. I could just, you know, I can just test it. I could just test it in here anyway. Oh, we have a with spaces and quotes ... args here. So let's do that. So the thing about with spaces and quotes, we did all this trailing args stuff. We don't need that anymore. Okay, what we do want to do is put quotes around the first element, and we don't want to modify the args being passed to us. So, well, maybe we do. Let's just see if we can do that. Tprint, put a quote, and then the string, and then a quote. Exe string. arg0 is quoted exe string. So that's to get rid of the quotes part of with spaces and quotes. And then we just say concatenate like that. Right? Let's make sure we're running the right thing. Arg string command/c hello sailor. It's not finding that. Command is system32. Okay, well, let's go. Windows system32 command .exe. We're getting super specific because I don't know what the rule. I don't know what the rules are. There we go. Result is true. I didn't. Where does the echo go, though? It says true. It says we ran it, but it didn't go to our output. Let's run a real command. Although, no, we tell it that its output should be our output. So let's run Notepad. Because that at least pops up a window, and we don't have any weirdness about anything else. There's no arguments yet, but okay. So it's running the thing. And then, right, our argument can be that, like before. There we go. So we're getting a command and an argument. So that's good. And we're getting the quotes around our arg string. It's a little dubious that time. Okay. So I don't know why echo isn't really doing that, but I'm not going to sweat it because it doesn't have to do with what we're working on. Working directory is the first arg. Working directory is the do I have it wrong? It's not the executable, it's the... Okay, wait. Create process A. No, it's application name. Oh, you mean to command the working directory? working directory for this is way toward the end, right? And we don't set it, so I don't know what happens when you don't set it. Maybe that's what's happening. His command doesn't like not getting a directory. Who knows? Who knows? Can we write a kernel in this? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that's work. That works. We did our spaces and quotes. Okay, are we using spaces and quotes elsewhere? OS run command in directory. Oh! Haha! Well, this is a bonus. So we can get rid of OS run command, or in directory completely. So we say here, we say working directory is nada, and then okay, so it's going to be null or not. And we just said in create process, current directory is that one. So working directory goes there. So first of all, before we delete anything, let's make sure that still works. Pointer versus non-pointer. Wanted. Oh. CWD C string. I passed the wrong thing. Okay. Now that works. Now, I should be able to set the working directory when I use this. So we'll say, comma, working directory equals here, and then here we're just going to say main.cpp. Actually, first let's do it without the working directory, and it should fail to find the file. Yeah. Do you want to create a new file? No. No, we're not going to create a new file because we're about to fix this, and it's going to be awesome. Hey, look at that. So now we're using, this is another case when we wanted varargs, but with, non-varargs. So now, OS run command in directory can just go away completely. Boom. And Linux never did that. So that's nice. We just got rid of some code. Okay, let's see if Sokoban compiles. Now I gotta wait for this whatever long delay is happening due to the Visual Studio toolchain. Oh my God, it's killing me. What is even going on? All right, there we go. So we're good. Command/K will run a command and not close the shell window that it opens. Yeah, so that would be an option. Does anyone know if call is a thing in system? Do I program everything without editor? Why do you think there's no editor? I don't understand. I don't understand that confusion at all. Okay, this is great because we're using this feature. We got rid of things. Oh, we have this spaces and quotes that we can now get rid of. I should have done a line count on this file. Let's see. Let's undo that. Let's do that. So line count is 268, and we're cutting it down to 197. So we deleted 71 lines, or 1/3 of this file. Or it was 1/4, right? And now it's 1/3, whatever. That's a pretty good savings. Yeah, and it's just, we weren't able to do this before because our varargs was not versatile enough, and now it is. So that's good. I'm going to commit this. Use are better. This is what happens. Like, I used to be running, when this machine was in the office, I used to be running on a higher res monitor. What? Windows. Oh my God. Use are better varargs to shorten file. All right, we're going to leave to do conflicted because I don't want to think about that. All right. Time for me to heat up some more tea water. And then I'm going to go look at another simplification that has nothing to do with this that I think would be useful to do. We've got to keep the steady supply of tea coming. It's how we manage the program. What was the lowest level of programming I've done in my career? Well, when I was a kid, I used to program in assembly language on the Commodore 64 and on the TRS-80 color computer. And then, hopefully this tea isn't too loud. And also, you know, I used to program in assembly in my first commercial game in the late 90s when I was writing the texture mapper and stuff. Yeah, the mic is weird. It's just the mic on this webcam, and I normally don't use it, but this is a temporary computer setup, so I'm not spending a lot of time to make it fancy and good yet. I'm going to drag in tonight a new machine from the office, and I'll set that up, and then that'll be the good one. Yeah. Okay. So while the tea water is boiling, let us look at something. In the actual compiler, so this is, of course, we've been editing the libraries in the new language, but in the source of the actual compiler, I noticed some stuff. So we have these things like scope free and scope delete array handler, and these are what I used to use before I had this defer operation that I use now. So I would like to just scan for who uses these and just get rid of that code, and then I can delete this out of this header file. So let's see first how many lines the compiler is going to be before and after. So 4358. Let's try and get it a little down. I want to get it closer to 40,000. We won't do by much, but you know, I don't know. This is like 30 lines, or I guess a lot of that's comments. Get rid of 20 lines. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So I guess I'm going to search for scope free, scope delete, scope close. I may not even use these anymore. Oh, I do. Oh my God, I use them a lot. Huh. All right, well, do I use scope close less? Because that'll allow me to delete part of it soon. Scope close. Well, this is a different thing called scope close, because it's a programming language. Looks like I don't use scope close at all. Right? Let's see if that's true. This hard drive is getting slow. This makes me very sad. Oh! Main. We did use it once. Oh, scope close handler. Oh, we get to delete more lines of code. That's good. Creative Cloud has stopped working on my laptop. Great. Will there be an IDE editor in the examples? No. No, you just use whatever editor you want to use. We might ship something a little bit like an IDE in the far future, but it won't be what other languages think of as an IDE. It'll be more of like a suite of program understanding software or something. Okay, so that's great. We get rid of scope close. That gets rid of some lines. How about scope delete array? Yeah, nobody does that. So let's get rid of that. That's a different thing. Vargs info doesn't belong with any of this. This is a thing that maybe we can simplify later. Maybe I'll do that during the workday today, or maybe we'll do it on a stream. Because remember, my previous stream was all about adding vargs info in, but then the way I finally did it, I realized, oh, we don't really need that. I made this thing instead, this asked make vargs. So there's a thing in the syntax tree that specifies, yeah, what's going on. Anyway, how about scope delete? Well, let's compile the compiler, make sure the compiler still runs. We're just being very conservative here. Oop. That's not. Oh, I'm running this in the wrong console. Okay, our count was 40358. Now it's 40339. So we're almost 20 lines down so far, which is good. We were running in this console. I'm going to write down the 40358 in case it scrolls off. Where's a pen? I don't have my new setup here. I don't have anything to write on. Oh, this pen is old because it came out of storage. It doesn't write. try this one. 40358. Awesome. Okay. So Sokoban compiled and it runs. So that's good. That's good. How about scope delete? Nobody uses that. So really, everybody uses scope free. Scope free is all over the place. If I remembered how to do regex replaces in Emacs, so really I would need to do them in Visual Studio across all the files. I don't know. There's some Emacs power thing I could do to replace all this stuff. But I might just frickin' manually do it, because although there's a lot of them. All right. Well, since we're being conservative, we'll actually check this in before we start mauling the code. Okay. Remove most scope. Okay. So we just got to do this one. Oh, you know what I could do for now? Define scope free x, defer free x, right? Look at that. In fact, let's get rid of all this and call it again. Compile it again without that. Oh yeah, what was this actually calling? It was calling free string, as someone in chat noted. I don't think that'll matter, but let's do that anyway. Like free string, I think, is just another useless wrapper. Yeah. You know what? Screw it. Well, no, it's okay. It's okay. We'll do it this way. Verify it works. While that's happening, how many lines are we down to? 40327. So we saved 31, which is almost 0.1% of the code. It's a non-trivial amount. If you can save 0.1% of your code every day at the end of a year, it'll be 1/3 smaller. Okay. Oh yeah, we were going back over here. So that compiled, and that ran. That's great. So let's check that in. All right. Well, those were the main things I had in mind to do. Maybe this is a short stream. Like I said, I have notes at the office about what are some other basic cleanups that I could do, but I forgot to bring them. Is there any computer science or programming related book you sometimes read, or not necessarily read, but keep it on desk to look over and refresh your knowledge on some specific computer science subject? No, not really. There probably should be. Like, I wish I knew what that book is. It's just, I almost never need to do anything that's very computer science-y, honestly. As sad as that is. Ask someone to fax them for me yet. Okay. Well, we could start looking at getting rid of the vargs info again. I don't necessarily want to do that right this second because it's going to be bigger. Like, I'm going to want to go get breakfast and all these things. It's going to be bigger than I want to do that right this second. So we've got this argument called vargs info. If I search for that, wow, okay. We really did a lot of work the past couple days because this is a totally new concept. But if I just look at the places where I dereference it, or the places where I arrow it, it's also called vargs result in one place. So that's the biggest one. If I just look for the places where we dereference it, it's really not that many, and a lot of them are assertions. So I feel like for some of these, I can get rid of them. Oh, this is in a comment anyway. Oh, there's this vargs cleanup. Let me do that. So that'll reduce the amount of apparent code. Let's look for vargs cleanup. Are there any more of those? No. Okay. I did make a few of them before, but I guess I've deleted them all. What is going on? Okay, so now there's even less vargs info dot, and there's only one in bytecode builder at all. Which means we could at least get it out of this procedure call, probably. So this is when we're calling varargs that are foreign. And here we get the make varargs from the parameter, but it's also in the argument list. So back during the previous stream, I was doing this thing for foreign varargs where we put the arguments individually at the end of the list, and so it's a different length if it's a foreign procedure versus not. That was confusing and annoying and made for complicated code. So I changed that back. So now there should just be one of these guys in the argument slot. So this thing here, we should be able to get out of the parameter that's being passed by the user into the routine, which then means we don't need to pass this extra piece of information here, and that'll be a successful simplification. So let's go to, let's say assert make is equal to source argument list. What's it called here? Argument list. Oh, right. It's called source argument list because maybe we swap something out. Oh no, except we don't anymore. Right, the argument list versus source argument list was also a complication that we added, so we can get rid of that. Okay, so that saves us a line of code and a complication. And just so that we know that that assertion went off, we're going to say printf, we did the assertion. It'll make it easy to spot. So now I don't know if Sokoban is going to trip this. We might have to make our test program trip it. But let's see. Let's see if when we compile Sokoban we get that at all. Oh, we did. Okay, this is a different bug. Okay, well, oh, it's not. We need to do the debug compiler so that the assertion would trip. Debug compiler. Yeah, like my whole file operations are just really slow on this computer now. Look how long it's taking to link. Look how long. Okay, so debug compiler. It did the assertion. Uh-oh. That's a different assertion, though. Holy cow, that's not even what we're working on at all. Holy moly. We're emitting a cast that x64 doesn't like. I'm going to not derail since the program happens to compile. I'm not going to derail on that. Stupid people honking their horns outside my open window. So it does work, but there's a problem. But I'm not going to derail off my current issue to go do that. That's a different thing. So here we're going to say, okay, make is this. Well, instead of that, we're going to say ast make varargs make is static cast ast make varargs. And then, so if I debug compile Sokoban, we will get our other assert, but we shouldn't get this assert. Yeah, we got the other assert. All right, well, we're fine for now. So what this means is we do not need this. Or that. And that means that anyone who calls it doesn't need to pass it. Which means eventually, so here we make a varargs info and we pass it just because we needed to pass it down here, but we don't need to pass it, right? Which probably means eventually sort arguments doesn't need it and nobody needs it, probably. Probably. Let's see. Let's make a release build. You know what? It'll be more lines of code, but for sake of robustness, we're going to make this an internal compiler error because an assertion won't go off during release build, but so that'll cost us more lines of code, but, you know, we're about code quality ultimately and not minimal number of lines, as much as I like minimal number of lines. So because this is a new thing, funny thing that we're doing, I want to make sure that if we get it wrong, we see that in release build as well as debug build. Also because it depends on some other things, like if we use that spread argument thing, that ... then this wouldn't work. Right now, we don't let you do that on foreign procedures, though. So maybe we should. Maybe in the future, we'll want to make that work, and then that slot will not necessarily be a make varargs, and we want to catch that. So, all right. So that's still compiling. I feel like before I go strip this back anymore, I want to make something that uses foreign varargs in our test. So here we were using stb sprintf, right? So we're going to do that again. Right. And then okay, so we're going to say buff is 100 u8 stb sprintf buff.data %d %f %s 10 100.o and hello sailor, of course. And we'll convert that back to a to a native string and say print. So the whole point is this is a varargs function, and we're calling it directly, and foreign varargs function. Oh, this is missing. We're probably going to make this work so that you don't have to say .data when you're interfacing with C, but for now you do. Oh, we ran Notepad. I forgot all about that. Okay, S10, 0, uh-oh. Uh-oh. We have a problem, but it's not the varargs info problem. I thought I tested for this yesterday. So in the C calling convention, I tested this. I don't know why it's broken all of a sudden, but in the C calling convention, oh, wait. So first of all, this. Oh, no. In the C calling convention, you don't pass floats to varargs functions. It's a funny thing about it, but it always casts float up to double, right? And in this case, this isn't getting to double, but I tested it, but maybe I did this. Right, let's try, maybe if it's a variable, if it works, and if it's a constant, it doesn't. Let me get rid of the notepad part. No, it still doesn't work. Maybe I broke something. Get rid of the notepad. Whoa. So the 10 is working. It's the second argument that isn't working. Like what? Okay. Maybe integers just don't. Okay. Maybe this is something to do with the thing I just did. I mean, it's not generating an internal compiler error, but I swear that I tested this. So maybe I tested it before I changed it. It's not the float calling convention thing. It's just that the argument marshalling here is in general broken. So did I get the shortcut variable declaration from Golang? No. I mean, we probably had similar reasoning to them. You could change a breakpoint line by clicking on the top blue text. But I just want to drag it like I used to be able to do in like Visual Studio 2005 or whatever the hell. Like, do we use branches in Subversion? I don't like to bother with branches, but some people do. There's rare occasions when we branch code, but it's not very often. Well, Who's annoying beeping? Is that outside? Why are you doing that? I'm not sure. Not sure what the problem is. Not sure what the problem is. One thing I can do, one thing I could imagine could be wrong is maybe a weird cast got inserted here. So we can at least make sure. God, what's going on down there? Not release build. Not release builds. Debug builds. Debug builds. Why am I putting this in the command arguments? That's not what we want. We want there, we want that. And then here, line 4196 or 4195, I want to make sure that no weird cast got inserted. It's not a valid. Oh. Now I've got all sorts of breakpoints that I don't care about. Let's go delete all those, I'm sure. Okay, so how many expressions? We've got 3. So this is where we think. Wrong window. Okay. That's a literal. That's a literal. That's a literal. So no cast got inserted on top of it. But maybe the flags got doinked with. This interface is so bad. So bad. Just let me type what I want to type. All right. So the number flags is 1. Number flag is a number. Okay. This is bad. I know why. I know why. Okay, so These, well, okay, let me look at the type. Okay, that's more like it. So we've got number flags. Of 869. So 64-bit signed, not a float, is a number. Okay, that's right. Number 1 is 869 as well. And number 2 is probably 869 as well, because they're all just integers. Yeah. So I'm not setting the number flags. That's what's wrong. See this? In this version down here, I'm saying get number flags and set the number flags. And I'm not doing that up here. This is the special loop that happens for foreign procedures. Because I packed the var args into one argument, I have to have a little loop here. And it's got some copy and pasted code. And of course, whenever you copy and paste, you may well make an error. And indeed, I made an error. Dude, I hate this editor. It's so slow and gimpy and stupid. All right. So let's see what happens. Oh, release. Let's just go release build. I think that's going to work. Let's go release build. Didn't fix anything. Didn't fix anything. That makes me sad. Why didn't that fix anything? Well, because it wasn't really the problem, first of all. Because, I mean, the first argument came out correct and they all had the same number flags. It was a bug, but it wasn't the only bug. Although, I'm suspicious about the fact that when we put the floating point number first, didn't that work? Yes. So what? why did this work then? Like, if we weren't setting the number flags, how did the foreign function interface know that it was a float and put it in the right place? Because things, when you're calling out to C, integer things go in the regular registers and floats go like somewhere, go in the floating point registers. Or there's some cases where you load them into both. I don't know. Oh. Maybe we are not allocating enough in our calling record. Like, how do we know? That would explain a lot. Let's look at make calling record. Because there's a way that we decide how many argument registers should be there, and that has to be different now for foreign varargs in the new way that we're doing things. And we didn't make that different. That's the problem. Okay. See, this tells us we have to add more complication. We have to say if it's varargs, and I'm fine with adding complication as long as it's isolated, right? Like, the problem with the old thing was that the varargs logic was like creeping into everywhere and making everybody more complicated. And here it's like, okay, look, foreign varargs, whatever, it all just goes into one place. So, and it's pushed further to the back end instead of being spread everywhere. That said, anytime I have to add more complication, I'm like, oh, I don't totally love it. But here we go. So if it's foreign and it's varargs, then we say assert we must have gotten more than 0 arguments because we would have one for the varargs. So asked this time I'm just going to assert this, because if this wasn't true, we should have internal compiler errored earlier in the pipeline when I added that internal compiler error. So assert make type is equal to ask make varargs. So num args plus equals make arrow expressions dot items -1 may be -1 if expressions is empty, which will subtract 1 from num args. Okay, something like that. It's not called this. Its type definition is vargs. Or is it contains? Contains. I'm not sure which flag to check. I'm going to hope it's this one. Okay, we got an 11, 22, 33, and it's not 0 terminated. I guess stb sprintf doesn't 0 terminate? That would be weird. We're putting our own 0. Okay. I dig it. I dig it. Let's put a float. There we go. I dig it. Oh. Okay. We have about, okay, so there's some things going on with passing strings to C. That we want to handle. I'm not going to do them now because I'm going to go to breakfast, but this gives me a good to-do list right now. So first of all, if we pass a string literal to C, we shouldn't have to say .data, right? It should coerce the pointer to U8. So we're going to do that. And then we made a rule that apparently is not correct. We made a rule that that for the ease of interfacing with foreign languages that use 0 terminated strings, anytime you have a string literal, we were going to put a 0 termination at the end. And you see that works here because the back ends do it, but it doesn't work here. Like the front ends, when they make a string literal and we're running in bytecode, it doesn't work. So we have to fix that. That'll be minor. But I'm getting hungry, so we'll do a last couple of questions, and then I'm gonna go get breakfast. Oh, well, I should also fix this, or commit this. So we're gonna commit, we're gonna say, remove need for vargs info in bytecode .cpp, fix bug involving foreign vargs procedure calls. And we hopefully should still be a net reduction in lines of code for the day. We started at 40358. We fixed a bug that required adding some code. We removed some things, 40337, yeah. So we're 21 lines down, which is good. What am I doing? Watch the VOD. What am I having for breakfast? I don't know. What do I think of Clojure? I'm not that enthusiastic about using Lisp-like languages. I did it in college. It was interesting as a method of expanding your mind about how programming languages can be. I don't think it's very useful in production. I will say that it's true that a lot of the higher level functionality that Lisp provides can be useful, but other languages provide that stuff too. For example, this language gives you really good introspection and ability to modify your program and inspect your program, which were supposedly some of the big things that were only done by Lisp, right? So that's part of what I'm doing, is taking the power of that kind of language and bringing them here to classically compiled imperative languages. But Lisp doesn't only have that powerful stuff, it also has huge downsides. And which I won't go into because I'll just be ranting again, my usual rants. And I don't want to repeat myself too much. And this language doesn't have those downsides. So there you go. How do I handle Unicode strings? Well, strings are assumed to be UTF-8 by all the libraries and stuff. And right now we just kind of assume they're well-formed because we don't want to spend CPU on string validation when you don't expect it. But we'll see. I don't know really what the issues are involved in that. How do autoarrays work in terms of memory resizing? There is a struct called the context, which you may have seen if you've seen previous stuff. And this gets passed to every routine. It's like a this parameter in C++, but it's more useful. So this has routines that people commonly want to use. For example, what allocator should I use? Or what logging facility should I use? And so forth, right? When an array like that gets created, then it will get its allocator from the context. And then it'll use that allocator from then on. So, you might set the default allocator in the context and then call out to a huge body of code like a library or something. And all that code will use the allocator that you swapped in for that particular library. Thoughts on Falcon Heavy? What am I going to say about that? That's great. What do you want me to say about Falcon Heavy? Yeah, Prolog is mind-expanding and also completely useless garbage language. Like, it's horrible. It's horrible, right? I mean, it's fine to learn it in school, but try writing an actual program in Prolog. No, there aren't Lisp variants with good performance. No, there aren't. Only if you have a low idea of what good performance is. I mean, again, what casual web programmers consider good performance is not what game programmers consider good performance, so there may be a cultural difference there. Nothing on Unicode. I mean, what you don't want Unicode to be rocket science because it's strings that you pass everywhere. If you make that really complicated, then you're complicating every program all the time, right? No, it's just, look, they're UTF-8 strings. Our string object tells you how many bytes long they are, and that's it. You want it to be dead simple, dead simple. I don't know what this sample game demo is, but I guarantee you it's not as performance demanding as Call of Duty or even The Witness, so I'm not sure that it's meaningful. The audio is still clipping. That's unfortunate, but we're about to end the stream, and next stream we may use a different mic, so Sorry about that. Um, Maybe it's being multiplied by 2 in the settings or something. I don't know. Um, they keep changing around the OBS UI, so uh, it's kind of hard to know even where to look for if it's getting amplified. All right, whatever. It doesn't say it's clipping. It says that it's well within the bar here. So I don't know what's going on. Oh, I guess I can look in. I said I wasn't going to bother looking, and now I'm looking. I mean, levels, 188, whatever. Whatever, man. It's supposedly simple, but how about things like string comparison with normalization forms? Well, you would use a library for that. You know, like if you know you're trying to do that, you would use a library. We don't have a string comparison operator except for operator equals. And operator equals says, are these strings byte for byte the same? That's all, right? We keep it dead simple. So if you want to compare them as Unicode and know whether they're somehow Unicode equivalent in canonical form, use a library for that. We don't do it. Yeah. All right. People keep asking, what does my average workday look like? It doesn't look like anything. I mean, I work, or some days I take days off. Some days I work most weekends I work. Um, I'm just motivated to do stuff, so I don't need to force motivation via schedule. For some people, they need to use a schedule to keep them on track, but I'm not that way. Falcon Heavy, your thoughts are that there's a lot wrong with modern companies, and SpaceX might be an opportunity to be positive about the future of humanity, especially compared to the state of most modern software development. Okay, I agree with that. I agree that, so on the one hand, so I don't know that much about the space program or anything, right? But I do know what everybody else knows, which is that it's been in a rut for decades. And even way back at the time when the space shuttle was being developed, a lot of people were upset about it, and they were like, no, we should stick with rockets. This thing is a piece of junk, you know? And so that's been going backwards. And it's very exciting now to see, like, oh my God, we might have forward progress here again, you know? Like we've had these momentary times of excitement and then stagnation afterward. So even in computers, there hasn't been much progress. Like when the iPhone came out in 2008, that was 10 years ago. That was the most recent exciting thing. And then over the course of a few years, that stagnated, and now there's nothing exciting happening in phones anymore, even, right? And even if it was exciting hardware, now we've stabilized on what we use phones for, and it's not that exciting, right? Most people use phones to waste time. So that said, there are a couple of applications that are super cool. Like you can go fly anywhere in the world and run a map on your phone and be able to navigate. That's amazing, right? But you know, the feeling is that in these areas we are not societally progressing as well as we should. We do small things and then stagnate. So it's good to see people pushing like that, yes. And I hope that culturally we develop more of a taste of pushing on these things, because there's a tremendous amount that we can do. Like, even if you froze technology today, I mean, we should be developing more technology, but if you froze technology today, there's so much we could do with just what we understand that we're not doing, that it's astonishing. And the future of the world may depend on us getting better at this. So, yeah, I think Falcon Heavy is a very positive development from that standpoint. That said, okay, so Falcon Heavy is currently the largest payload carrying rocket by about a factor of two. ULA, the United Launch Alliance, which is, like, uh, I forget what companies have merged to form. It's like Boeing and Northrop Grumman or something. I don't know. Anyway, those guys, they supposedly have a rocket coming next year that is like barely more payload capacity than Falcon Heavy, but of course will be much more expensive and stuff. Um, but in the meantime, Falcon Heavy is by far the biggest thing. But even Falcon Heavy is small compared to rockets that we had in the 1960s and 1970s, right? So Saturn V was bigger than Falcon Heavy by, I forget what. It had a payload capacity of 2 or 3 times Falcon Heavy. Somebody could look this up, right? So even though this seems really exciting, we're still behind in rocketry where we were before I was born, right? Like we landed guys on the moon for the first time before I was born with a rocket bigger than the one that took off yesterday. So keep that in mind. It's great, but we've still done, the net effect in rocketry is that we've done nothing for 40 years. No, 50 years. That's a long time. 50 years is a long time. And Elon Musk once said in an interview that it's not, we think of technology as something that naturally goes forward, but it doesn't naturally go forward. You can lose technology, and there's instances in the past where societies lost technologies and then kind of disintegrated over time. And rocketry could have been one of those things. And we're not there yet. We're not back to Saturn V yet. So keep that in mind. What do I think about VR as an exciting technology field? I think VR will be cool. I think the hardware technology needs to get better um, in a few ways. And then hopefully the market will appear, and then hopefully people like me can make software for it. Yeah. What are our plans on Unicode? Are we planning to use ICU or something else? I don't know anything about ICU. Um, I don't know. I just haven't thought about it. Does arts get as exciting for me as technology? Yeah, for sure. When things are good. Yeah, it is. So Falcon Heavy has definitely made strides in cost to launch things. Um, but again, the space shuttle was shockingly more expensive than earlier rocketry as well, right? So it's kind of because we went way backwards for a while too. I mean, so the ULA launches are really expensive, but that's in part because the space shuttle launches were really expensive. Like there never had to be any pressure to improve price, and now there is. So we'll see. How should the VR hardware change? Just better performance? Well, it has to get lighter weight, and we have to figure out something about like motion sickness kind of things. Um, like you have to. Hopefully, we will figure something out about being able to navigate in game worlds without just teleporting, because the teleportation constraint does affect gameplay very heavily. Like we can we can work with it, but it affects gameplay very heavily. I mean, I guess people are doing stuff lately with like putting black bars around the edge when you move and stuff. But then if a game is mostly in motion, you're kind of killing the VR presence by doing that. So, you know, hopefully that happens. And yeah, pixel density and less glare. Yeah, Jack Mod is definitely naming some stuff that would be good. The tracking also needs to get better. The Vive had the best tracking, and it's still jittery and kind of bad sometimes. So the new Vive supposedly has better tracking, and they also let you set up 4 lighthouses instead of 2. And I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how that is. What do I enjoy most about compiler programming compared to games programming and vice versa? They're not that different from each other. I mean, games programming, I get to make gameplay experiences, and that's exciting. But in compiler programming, I get to make the experience of using a nice language. So it's not that different. I think of them the same now. I've said stuff about Rust on previous streams, so I'm not gonna repeat. All right, everyone, it's time for me to get breakfast and then probably go to the office and stuff. Thanks for stopping by. I've got my list of issues to deal with, and I'll see you later.